employees area, basic. Okay, in this video we're going to go over all of the basic features of our employees area. So let's get started. Once you've signed in, you'll click on employees at the top. And when you do that, you're going to be on the search menu, and we can type in the name of the employee we want to find, and we can search for them. And now we are in this employee's profile. So what you can do from the profile is, obviously the very most basic thing is just view the information on the screen, whether it's the contact information or the dates or the emergency contacts or the alert settings. You can also quickly either edit the profile or edit these settings with these buttons over here on the right. So if I needed to change a date in the dates area, I could do that. And now I've added that date. Same thing with the emergency contacts or the alert settings. So let's jump into the profile and we'll edit some profile information. Again, we can add address, city, state, zip. You don't have to put any of this in. These features here in the middle, division, type, and position, these are good for sorting data in the e-schedules or the TimeTracker or even in the employees area. So it is a good idea to set these up. If you watch our video on setup, it'll tell you how you can create these lists. These can be set up by you, and whatever you want, whatever works for your company. So other areas in the employee profile on the edit that are kind of important down here under the admin settings. I'll go over what these all are for. Obviously, status. We have 3 statuses in the software: active, inactive, and void. What these would do is when someone's active, they're obviously going to show up everywhere in the software. They would be able to log in and out. They'd be able to clock in and out. They would have access to everything and be able to use everything. When you set someone to inactive, it will stop them from being able to log into the software or to clock in and out, but you'll still be able to view them from different lists. So it's kind of more of a temporary disable versus a terminate. And void is going to remove them from all of your basic lists. It's going to stop them from being able to clock in and clock out. It would really be used for someone that you're terminating. It's not deleting them, it's keeping them in the software so you can bring them back at a later time, but you're not going to see them anymore. Date of birth, that's easy. HR and accounting, we'll get into this number later, but this is used for if you're using a payroll software and you want to do an import into their software. This would be the number that's coming from them that would link our software with theirs. So this is a unique identifier for the employee as far as payroll goes. Time card adjustment. What this means is if you set this to say 6 hours and you automatically adjust this for 30 minutes, every night the system will see if this employee worked more than the 6 hours, and if they have, then it's going to add an adjustment of 30 minutes. And in our time tracking video on basics, we'll talk about adjustments. These are used a lot of times for lunches or other things, but this is a way to automatically do it every single night. So if your company policy was if you work more than 6 hours, we're going to take a 30-minute lunch, then the system would automatically handle it. Okay. GPS clock in and clock out. If you are using the GPS function and allowing your employees to use the mobile phone to clock in and out, you can actually turn off GPS for a specific employee, meaning it's not going to require them to use GPS to clock in and out, and you can turn that off here. Whenever you make any changes, you make sure you update in order for it to save. The other things under the edit profile that are very important are going to be these 3 buttons here: username, password, and PIN. And I'm going to start with the PIN number. You can actually, I believe you can see the PIN number. Nope, you can't see it on this screen. The PIN number, oh, you can see it right here. The PIN number is right there. The PIN number is the 4 to 6 digit number that the employee is going to use to clock in when they call into the system. It's very important that you set this up. Again, it's a number you declare and you're going to give them. We suggest using a number that makes sense for the employee, not just some random number, maybe something like the last four of a social security number, or the last 4 or 5 of a telephone number, or a date of birth, something along those lines. If you use a number that's already in the system, it will prompt you and say that it's already been used. And they obviously must match in order for you to use it. So now this employee, their PIN number would be 2222. So when they called into the system and the system asked for their PIN number, that's what they would use. Again, it's just a unique identifier as far as TimeTracker goes. When they call in, every employee must have it. If they don't, they can't clock in and clock out. And again, that was under, if I view the profile, it's here. In order to change that number, I will have to go to edit profile and go down to the PIN number. The username and password, you don't need to set up unless you want your employees to clock or to be able to log in either via a web browser or the mobile app. When you create a new employee, when I go to add a new employee, the system, when I fill this out, the system's going to create a unique username and password. It's going to give it to them no matter what, but no one's going to know what it is, so they'll never be able to clock in. You'll notice it has a crazy username here. So if you want this employee to be able to clock in, or to log in I should say, then you'll need to go to the edit profile and you'll need to go to the username, change this. We suggest a username of maybe an email address. That always works well. And then you'll also need to set up a password and send this. Now if you'll notice there's nothing here, it's just a password change. If on the employee profile you set up an email address for the employee, when you go into the password change, then you'll get the ability to send out a password reset and account information to their email. And what they'll get, and you can test this and see the email yourself, and I advise you to do that, but they'll get a very simple email that'll give them some instructions on how to log in, and it'll give them their username. It will reset them a new password and give it to them, and it'll give them a link to get right to the login page. So very helpful on new hires if you wanted them to get information on how to get in here. Other things under the employee profile are these administration tools, so I want to go over those. You can track pay rates. We can track up to 3 pay rates for each employee. You simply type in the pay rate and it will record it down below. Whatever the latest pay rate you have put in here is the one that the system will use when you get into some reporting on TimeTracker, and it will use these numbers to kick out some additional data. It'll use the latest one that you put in, so whichever one's at the top. So if you're not happy with this current rate, just simply come in here, add another one, and press add, and that's the one that it will use for all its calculations. This is just a history of everything that's ever been added for the employee. Associations. These are a way in order to tie your employees to your customers. We'll get into this a lot more when we talk about our e-scheduling, so I'm not going to go too much into that right now, but this is one place that you can manage your associations, and you could add a tie between this customer and this employee. List notes and block notes. These are very simple ways to keep notes on employees. List notes are kind of a one-line note, and block notes are more of a box that you can type in. So we could type in hire, I could type my note in, I could add a category, and now I'm going to store that information down below, and it'll tell who did it and who entered it. This information cannot be viewed by the employee. It can only be viewed by people that have permission to this area. And the final one is permissions. Under this screen is going to be where you can manage all of the permissions for the employee. This account that I'm using right now does not have access to this area, and in fact this is going to be a more advanced feature anyways, and we'll talk about that in our advanced video under employees. Permissions are where you're going to limit access to this employee and what they can see when they log in. Again, it's under this area, and we'll talk about it in our advanced employees video. Other basic information that I want to go over in this video is going to be the alert settings. These settings are for this particular employee, and there's some different alert features that you can turn on and off that can be kind of important. So I'll go over them. To view them, you just click on alert settings and they're here. To edit them, I click here. Alert on clock in and clock out. What these two alerts are is anytime this employee clocks into the system or clocks out, you can send yourself a text, an email, or both. And that is going to go out to this email address and this text number. So this is unique for every single employee. Again, this is not an alert that you would use very often because you're going to see that every single time they clock in and out. But what this is good for is if you have an employee that you're trying to keep an eye on for maybe a specific set of time, they're not, you just want to know that information, then you can set that up. And you, again, to set it up, you would say, I want to know when they clock in. I want to be emailed at this address, and then you could update it. Multi-day clock in. By default, multi-day is turned off. And what multi-day is if you have employees that are working over midnight, meaning they're clocking in on day 1 and clocking out on day 2, by default, the system will handle that as 2 different days for that employee. If you turn on multi-day, then the system will look for the previous day to see if they're clocked in and will take care of that transition over midnight. So very important, if you have employees that work over midnight, you would need to set that to on for that employee in order for them to be able to clock in on day 1 and out on day 2. Daily e-schedule alert. This will send out a text and an email to the employee. This is a scheduling feature. By default, it is turned on. And we'll go over more of that in our scheduling videos. So that's the basics for your employees. Please watch the advanced video to get into permissions and some of these features down here on the search screen. Thanks for watching.